Diane, playing a podcast Black Lodge Trivia Night. I've never heard so many game aspirations in my life.
Hello and welcome back to Black Lodge Trivia Night. Tonight is an episode of Damn Fine Coffee. It's an extra Thursday in the month, a little bonus action. And so tonight we're taking a break from the RPGs and all the other shenanigans we do, and we're unwinding a little bit, and we're talking about all the things we enjoy. We're talking RPGs tonight. Who's with me?
How's it going, guys? How you doing?
Sup? This is the one where we talk about RPGs?
This is it. This is our RPG podcast.
Wow. I thought we were going to talk about college football. It's Thursday.
Yep. It's that time of year. Yeah,
week one.
there is something in the air, and it may be like 90-something degrees here tomorrow, but I am... it is spooky season. I am burning my the King in Yellow candle, regardless of the temperature out there. So a shameless plug for Scent from Hell, which is a great candle company, and they do horror-themed candles. And the King in Yellow one is beautiful.
You mean
I hope
kind of like this one, right?
Oh,
which is my this is for the hotel from The Shining, also from the company you just said.
Scents from Hell.
Yeah, thanks.
They're not a sponsor. They just make really good candles, and they last
do.
a long time, and they're very strong. They're good.
Yes.
just for the sponsors out there, we'll give you 60% off if we forget your name. So, you'll still get something, but it won't be everything. And we understand that, and we'll help you out.
And this is where we prompt Art to do his little sponsorship plug.
Yeah, so
there it is.
There it
Full
is.
label and everything.
Wow.
we got a backup sponsor.
Justice. Wow.
Lobster Pot of Provincetown, Massachusetts.
Love it.
Wow.
Love it. Wouldn't that
There we
be
go.
something if we had like Jolene's Diner from Lansing, Kansas? I'd take it.
Yeah. We do the sponsors nobody else has the guts to.
When we post these videos, you just need to start tagging these corporate accounts in them. Just brought to you by Justice T. Eventually, the senpai will notice us. It'll be fine.
That might backfire. But yeah, so spooky stuff is in the air, but so are RPGs. And tonight's topic is RPG Eclectica. And that is dealing with our shortened hobby attention spans and the demands we put on ourselves by accumulating way too much shit. So we're going to be talking about that stuff, how we deal with it, what's burning on the back burner, and all kinds of stuff like that. But before we do, Patrick and I had a little faux pas in Bookhouse Boys. We had no trivia.
Yeah.
I noticed. I don't notice much, but I noticed that.
Does that mean we get 2 trivia questions tonight?
Oh, shit.
Oh, god damn it, Art.
I've got one.
Art did not drink his beet juice, and
Wow.
we forgot to do DDP yoga before we started.
I will say, I do have a trivia question, and this one actually might be quite difficult.
Love it.
So, are you ready?
Rock and
Yeah,
roll,
you've
baby.
hit us with some real softballs before, so ramp it up. Let's go.
Okay, here we go. Andrew Packard, Josie's husband,
Mhm.
Leland Palmer, and Agent Rosenfeld. Obviously, we're all in Twin Peaks, but it's not the first time that they were in something together. They all shared the screen in what 1987 science fiction movie?
I can picture Rosenfeld in a sci-fi movie, but I don't know what it is. Who is the other person besides Rosenfeld?
Agent Rosenfeld, Leland Palmer,
Okay.
and then Andrew Packard, which is the smaller character you might not know.
Man, I can just picture Rosenfeld in so many things.
That's the problem. He was a good character actor. He got around.
Do you have any guesses, Patrick?
87. Oh god.
It's before we were born.
I mean,
We stand
basically.
no chance.
No.
Oh my God.
I mean, so was that before or after the Old Testament?
Before.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Gotcha. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Old Testament ends when the Berlin Wall comes down, which happened before I was born as well. So that's how I can keep that straight. We have no guesses. It sounds like from Patrick.
Well, okay.
Can we get a hint?
87. What is it? Is it you know me in fucking words. Oh my god. They can be. Is it? They can be
You
only
know
one.
me,
There,
and
there can be only one. No. Highlander. That's what I was thinking, but that doesn't make any sense. So I have no idea.
okay. So
yeah, just let me. Your guess is
Patrick's guess is
Highlander?
Highlander. Can you give
Okay.
me a hint? Because there's no way it's Highlander. You're not telling me that Sean Connery and Leland Palmer starred in a hit movie together.
Okay, so here's the deal. The only hint I can think of off the top of my head is probably going to give it away.
That's fine. I have no idea what it is. So
Okay, but I'd buy that for $1.
oh no, I got nothing.
Patrick, does that help you at all?
I'd buy that for $1. No.
It's a quote from the movie.
Well, yeah, thanks. Because $1 doesn't buy anything.
No, the hint is specifically that Art found this Blu-ray for $1 at a garage sale last week.
at a truck stop.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it Running Man?
No, it is RoboCop.
Oh shit!
my-
That's what I knew. Yes, yeah. Yep. That's what I can picture. That's where I'm picturing Rosenfeld from.
Yes, yeah.
Wow.
Who played Andrew Palmer?
The actor's name is Dan O'Harrahy or something like that.
Apologize to all our Irish listeners.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Patrick, I apologize.
Oh yeah,
What?
him too.
I mean, I'm Irish too, but
Yeah, so am I actually.
oh, okay. So there we go. So then we're allowed to do that.
Yeah, sure. I think that's how it works.
Yeah.
Apparently, in Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, as well as L.A. Law. Oh, one episode of L.A. Law that doesn't count.
No. Let me
Nice.
ask you. I have one backup question. How did Nadine Hurley lose her eye?
That's a good one.
I got nothing. Highlander.
She was at the WCW event that featured RoboCop, which was Sting. Sting dressed up as RoboCop, if you guys didn't know. And she was at that wrestling event. And when Hulk Hogan slapped into the ropes, part of the belt buckle came off and it hit her in the eye. That's how she lost it. Final guess. Final answer.
That is correct.
Got it. Knew it.
Yeah, got it in one. It was a hunting accident.
Ah,
Who cares?
when is that revealed? Because I don't remember that at all.
I don't know.
I need a source.
I don't remember. Did she always have the patch? Like from?
Yeah. She starts with the patch.
That's what I couldn't remember. If it was something that happened midway or not.
You mean
But
Firewalk with me? I don't know. I just don't even remember being referenced.
yeah. So there you go. We got 2 trivia questions down and one.
We did it.
And
yeah.
no correct. Yes.
No. Was that? I felt like that first one was a bit of a dog.
No, I like that.
No.
Okay, all right.
That's a good one. So yeah, folks, we're dedicated to Twin Peaks almost as much as we're dedicated to RPGs. And that's why we
right.
do the things we do. So before we get started, I ran some cheap statistics last night. And when I say cheap statistics, I mean like it's just kind of lazy statistics. So this year I have played 7 different systems. So through 8 months. So I'm averaging just under 8 systems or 1 system a month. In my collection. I'm not saying this is a bad thing because I think it serves a purpose. Not including modules or anything else. I have over 70 total systems.
Whoa.
Right?
Nice.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
mean, and I'm throwing in some like there's zines in there, like there's Arc and Sigil
Sure.
and Shadow, and so there's little stuff, but I count those, but I don't count the 15 Pathfinder 2nd edition books I have up here. I just count Pathfinder ones, right?
Right.
Most of those are unplayed. Not that many of them are unread. But if I go on those statistics, and let's just say I'm going to play 9 systems a year, I don't know. I think we have 2 or 3 more new ones we're going to add before the end of the year.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to add one a month. That means it's probably going to take me 10 years to play all of my systems. And I use that as a kind of a kicking off point to talk about what we're going to talk about. I'm not shaming myself or shaming anyone who buys RPGs or whatever, because I think there's value to be pulled from, you know, an X card RPG. Whether I play that or not, I've already pulled value and taken ideas from it, right?
Yeah.
I was in the local game store on Wednesday, and there's three books on the shelf I wanted to get, and I was like, holy shit, like I don't need these, but here's 3 brand new books I hadn't even heard of before, and they look fantastic, right? So my point is there's a million things begging for our attention, and I know both of you are in the exact same boat as me. And so I just wanted to use that little statistic of where I'm at as we kick off this conversation about RPG Eclectica, because we accumulate these things, and the reality is where you might play over 100 different board games in a year. That's feasible if you really hit it. You're not going to play 75 different RPGs in a year, or I'm not. I realistically, that would never happen.
No.
Playing 25 different RPGs in a year, that's never going to happen for me.
Yeah, it's interesting because I sort of fallen off a lot of my wargaming, but yeah, even with the RPGs I've been in, I was sort of thinking about it. I just wrapped up one at the beginning of the week, and I was asking the GM, I'm like, when did this one start? And it had been 2 years. And you're just like, oh. And I knew it had been a little bit of time, but you sort of lose track. And that's the trick. I think an RPG can elicit that kind of loyalty to it when you're having a good time. We were having a good time. Another one that's, Forbidden Lands, which is sort of designed to go as long as you want it to. There's no reason for it to stop. And we're having a good time. So we've been doing that one probably for a couple of years. But it makes the Eclectica part of it all that much stronger, because it's easier to, a lot of the games that we play, we were just playing a game online, and you guys both know it pretty well. So it seems like you could just bang out a couple of those a week if you wanted to, like a board game.
Right.
Mhm.
And you can't do that with an RPG. So it sort of makes the opportunity costs of the ones you pick all that higher.
Right. You might commit now. Like I'm in a couple like massive war games that we've played for months and months and months. Most of them are like, hey, want to meet up on Wednesday and knock this out, and then you're done with it. You're right. You're not committed for 2 years. And so if you have, I don't know, 1/4 of your nights in a year, that means you have 90 nights a year at RPG. Well, shit, if you're tied up in 3 of those as multi-year campaigns, like there goes
Yeah,
a lot. My math isn't working, but you get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, if you play 2 a night, that's 104 games a night, or games in a year, right? 104 game nights in a year for just RPGs. And I mean,
Right.
even if you got 3 long running games, that's 30 sessions each. That's I don't know.
Right. And the trick with an RPG is that they can sort of invite a 2-year study of them, because it's not just about the game, but you might like the system, but it's obviously almost always the people you game with.
Mm-hmm.
And so the outward pressure that I know the 3 of us have been talking about, of like, oh, what's that over there? Or the 3 games I just saw on the shelf that I don't need, but I almost grabbed all 3, is very strong, because we're not so agile. We're not so quick to be able to jump from here to there to try this and to get back and so on.
Yeah, the time investment to just alone, it makes it hard to, especially to have a rewarding kind of experience. I mean, you don't have to have, like, we've had a great time with all of our little one-ish shots, right? But even that, you got to dedicate 2-3 nights to. So you're not going to sit down and play. You can't even generate a character in a night with a group of people in some of these systems. So it just, the buy-in is so much more than, hey, let's play Earth, that's another topic.
Amazing game. How dare you?
No.
Yeah,
terrible.
and I didn't mean this to be like some doom and gloom, like, oh man, what are we doing? It's just like I come from like this board game hobby behind me, where before we had kids, I had like my wife and I would spend weekend days just playing 8 different games in a day, right? And that was no sweat. And then we had weekly board game groups and all that stuff. And it's just like that mindset's different, where it's like easy to like buy 5 games a month and know you're going to play 3 of them, and when you get to the other 2, that's fine. It's just, but so what I wanted to do is like, okay, we have this, like, there's a shit ton of good RPGs coming out lately, and we're going to talk about some of those things that are exciting us. But like, I think maybe the impetus for this conversation was like, how do you, one, milk all the things that are on our shelves and like get value out of them, and then like how do we deal with it? Like, what's our plan going forward? I don't know. There's maybe something to be extracted from having all this crap around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so let me ask. So, one of the things I was thinking about there, I feel like this could maybe take slightly different forms for each of us. Is it constantly just perusing, like just sort of staring, nostalgically at your shelf, or are you constantly on the lookout for like what's coming out that's new? Do you grab every Kickstarter? Like, is it, do you spend more time thinking about the things you already have, or are you always on the hunt for some reason, even though you know?
So I'll jump in on that one. I think I don't necessarily hunt, but I will gather on the other side of that. I know. I'm sorry.
Nice.
So, but like mine is a lot of FOMO, and I'll be perfectly honest with that. I'll see something that our friends are playing in any of the board game groups we're on, and I'll be like, that looks cool.
Mhm.
I'm going to go get that just so I can read the book and peruse through it. Or, which is totally, the kleptomania of board game of RPGs, but, or somebody will run something like one of our other friends is getting ready to start running Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 3rd Edition. And I'm like, ooh, can I fit that in? My wife is 8 months pregnant. Can I fit in a couple of
Stop right
sessions of
there.
that?
You can.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. Babe, he cannot come today. I need to make this session. Yeah.
I mean, it's on the calendar, babe.
Yeah. It's on the fridge.
We're fighting a red dragon tonight. This can't happen. They need me.
Come on, Ma.
I'm the cleric. They can't make it without me. Yeah. Yeah. But which I'm very sad that I'm not going to be able to make Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 3rd Edition. So at some point that's on the list, just so we're aware.
Yeah. So sorry, go ahead, Matt. Just go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I don't necessarily hunt, and like as I have this realization, I am more choosy and stuff. Like when I first got into the hobby, it's like everything is new and everything sounds amazing. And I'm gonna play it all, because you got to remember I've only been doing this for 4 years now or something like that. So I don't have like a 1987 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles RPG sitting on my shelf, along with like 40 years of baggage and realizing what you can and can't do. But like when I got into Pathfinder, then it's like, oh, I want to hunt down the Pathfinder stuff. And then like I'm good on fantasy for a while. Like fantasy games, what do I need those for? Those are all garbage. And then like got Pathfinder, read through it, not all of it. There's still plenty to read, but like really enjoying it. And then it's like I'm like in Pathfinder, and then something new and shiny catches my attention. Like I went to the game store to buy a copy of Earth. It's like, let me just pop over to the RPGs. And it was like, oh, there's a old school new world of 2000 AD, the Judge Dredd universe. Looks amazing. Then there's the Session D's Nuts, the Savage Worlds pulp World War II spy game. Like that looked amazing. And then there's Kieran Gillen, who's a comic book writer I really enjoy, has a comic book that they made an RPG based off the game, and it's basically, and that's the one I ended up grabbing. It's basically like darker, more messed up, and more like personal and intimate Jumanji, basically. And they made an RPG out of the comic, and it looks fantastic. It's like, even if I don't get a chance to play this, I'm going to pull something out of it. So for me, I'm in this like pattern of, it's not really hunting things down, and it is showing more constraint, but sometimes it's just like, man, that's too cool. Like the Magnus Chronicles, we've talked about that, right? The new backer kit for that just launched. The podcast is really entertaining, but also it's like they went $75 for an RPG, which is very steep. And there's 75 other things I could do with it. Anyways, so my point to answer your question is not so much a hunter anymore, but it is like, oh, look at that. That looks really amazing.
And so let me ask, Patrick, you said FOMO. Do you think that's the main drive that sort of gives you the wandering eye, or do you think it might be something else?
For me personally, yes, because I don't like the only publisher that I really follow just specifically anymore is the Free League stuff, just because I like their systems. So like I get the newsletter and everything when something comes out. Mine's Moria looks great, by the way. And like that's the only one that I go out of my way to go look at and be like, oh, what's new is coming in these systems that I like. Everything else is, hey, we're playing this, and then I'll go on Drive Through RPG and I'll look at it, and then I'll follow the rabbit hole of, oh, that's cool. What is that in the corner? Oh, what's popping up on the new? It's very fluid. So
Okay. And then Matt, what would you say? Sort of, is it just like because like, oh, I know that artist from a comic book? Is there something that tends to be what drives you towards The Wandering Eye?
No, I think FOMO's in all of us, especially Patrick and I. We're millennials. Like that's in our FOMO's in our blood.
How we
now.
exist, honestly.
Basically. Maybe just like hearing about things. Like I'll hear some like something on a podcast or something like that, and just when people get excited about things, that gets me excited about things. So if someone's really like talking about their past experiences with Vampire the Masquerade, right? A game I never thought I would play, but then this one podcast was just talking about, it's like, wow, that sounds really cool. Now I want Vampire the Masquerade, even though I'd sworn it off. Not sworn it off, but you get what I mean. But what about you, Art?
For me, it's kind of interesting. It's not FOMO per se. I don't know if this is something that's weird about me, but I spend a lot of time, like thinking like, oh, this could be interesting. And when I see something or hear about something that I think could support that, I go ape shit. So, so at some point I'm going to be running, my first sort of more prolonged thing, and it's going to be D&D 5e. No, it's going to be, the spy John le Carré kind of stuff. And so once I thought like, so it starts by me reading the book and I'm like, this could be an adventure, which I thought could be different and a little interesting. As soon as that, I started figuring out like, okay, so how do I do it? And so then I end up buying, make sure people that control the purse strings in the house are not right behind me. I end up getting like 10 different books.
Yeah.
Knight's Black Agent, Fall of Delta Green, 3 Savage Worlds ones, Top Secret, the one that was James Bond with the James Bond stripped off of it. There's an OSR D20, so I end up getting like, and then like one. So you got the original. Ooh, sir.
Hold on,
sir.
This is okay. Someone talking about.
Okay.
Someone was, sorry not to cut you off, but so for your information, someone had told me it was in a book, and they talked about how formative this supplement to James Bond was. And so the whole driving purpose of me buying James Bond was to just justify buying for your information. And these are like unused character sheets and everything in here. It's so nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sir.
Yeah.
Sir.
Someone get some ice water quick.
He needs some Justice tea.
Art, cool yourself down with some just iced tea. Lobster pot.
Lobster. Oh God, he's lobster potting himself.
Give yourself a dunk in the lobster part. So this was driven by someone's extremely high praise of just how good this supplement was, which is completely bonkers. Until my kids are older, the only people I'm going to play this game with are you guys, right? Like it's like when does that fit in the schedule?
I think looking at the calendar, 2094.
Yeah, exactly.
Or now.
That's why you need to drink your beet juice, Art. So go on, but I get what you're saying. Sorry, the James Bond. Yeah, it's a track.
Yeah. So that's what ends up fueling my distraction. Like suddenly, like I'll be running something, but because I'm thinking of other things that might be an interesting adventure, something will pop into my head. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Okay, the first piece just fell into place. The second piece might be this. Oh my God, this is starting to come together. I better get 12 books.
Right.
So that's sort of how I end up with a pile of stuff that I probably will never quite get to. But sometimes I get stuff in support of stuff. So like, I don't know. I'm not a huge Middle Earth guy. Like for the books, the movies I thought were pretty good. But for nostalgia reasons, I've always enjoyed role-playing in Middle Earth. And so I see the One Ring on my shelf. I'm like, someday I'd like to give that an honest try. But for some reason, I thought in order to give that an honest try, I needed the original.
All of it.
Yeah, Middle Earth role-playing game, the second edition Middle Earth role-playing game, Rollmaster Unified Core Law, and then Against the Dark Master, which is the modern take of that.
Yeah.
I don't need any of that. I have one ring right there, and it's self-contained, and it's probably too Hobbit heavy, but it's, I don't need the other. But in my head, I'm like, oh, this could lend supporting material because I know the MERP stuff is really good for background and detail, and so I could use that to help flesh out whatever it is I'm trying to do.
But I think that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Like, okay, yeah, maybe we don't.
I don't think so. I think it's
cool. Exactly. Yeah. But like, I guess trying to explain it to, I listened to this podcast, and I started listening to the board game podcast a long time ago. Then I did the RPG stuff, and I'm back on the main podcast, which is Secret Cabal, which is amazing. And they talk about alien brain, and they just had an episode of it. And like, alien brain is like my understanding of is like the weird actions we take that people looking in at us would be like, what the hell is that person doing? And so, like, but my point is, Art, is you're being hard on yourself because those 10 spy books, Patrick and I at least assume that you've pulled so much out of those. Like that's so we haven't seen it yet. We haven't seen Art's crazy, ransom letter rule book, but like you're extracting that. And like I have a few Hellboy things. Like I bought the Hellboy GURPS book. I had no intention of running 3rd edition GURPS, let alone 4th edition. But it's an amazing resource that I know that it's like when I finally do my Hellboy thing, I'm going to pull from this. In the 5e Hellboy, I don't really like the rule set for it, and I don't particularly want to do 5e anymore, but I'm keeping those 5e Hellboy books to use those as sources. So it's not like, oh my gosh, we're ding-dongs for buying all these books. I think we're extracting value. I mean, not every time. I'm not. Like, I have this book, I Hunt, up here. Like, I want to play that someday, but that's like so down low on the rung. Like, I'm not pulling anything from I Hunt. It just looks cool.
Yeah.
I think too, there's on that, we all have our white whale that we always go after, right?
Yeah.
So your Hellboy, your spy game, which I'm very jealous that your spy game is going to be the white whale that gets found first, or whatever. Do you have another white whale that you're trying to go after there, Art? What's the holy grail?
That's the problem. I have
all of them.
A lot of things that are all so there's. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
there is another one that I put a lot of time into, and it's sort of my homebrew.
My personal sweet.
Fantasy,
the little bits you've told us.
Fantasy setting, that I was kind of see like, let's kick the tires on this and see if the idea holds water. It might not.
Yeah, and mine just as to put cards on the table is Deadlands. Like my white whale is it might be Deadlands, actually. I was going to say that the other side of that coin is your comfort zone, where you always go to, like what your home base for RPGs. Like, I have a ton of 5e stuff, and I like 5e. It's fun, but I have way more Deadlands stuff, and it's just like, if I want to, like, that's the most comfortable RPG that I can go and play. Like, I will buy everything for Deadlands every time, just because that's where that's our touchstone, right?
Sure.
So
I can't wait to play that one. You said that's somewhere on the rotation, right?
It's probably next on the rotation.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have to say, like, we talk about it like this, and like you were saying, Matt, we don't want this to be doom. This is like fun. The constantly thinking about, I mean, again, I probably should be devoting more time to my career, my 401k, whatever, but thinking about this stuff is really fun. So the idea of like, well, now I need 10 spy books is not like a burden. It's not something a cross to bear. It's I get to pour through these, and even and I think the thing about creative endeavors, which I think this, it's the 100%. Same on some levels, like writing a novel, or maybe it doesn't have the whatever, it doesn't matter,
panache.
Yeah, but they're all creative endeavors, and there's sort of the thing that people say, like, sitting in front of a blank screen for 8 hours and turning off the computer still counts as writing. Like, even though like I have these 10 books, I pulled from 3 of them.
Yeah.
But knowing what I didn't want or discovering that was just as important, in a sense, to sort of hone the idea and potentially have a chance of coming to life. And so it's fun, and I guess I don't want to make this sound like this is a burden. But I will say the trick to it is there's a game that's currently going on, right?
Yes.
And so, it's that could be the consequence, right? It's not that the other stuff isn't fun,
Right.
but the potential to get sort of lost in this this crush or whatever, it could impact what's going on with the games that you're currently running. And so what I thought was kind of interesting is like, do you find you're able to balance the two, or do you find like, no, actually like, so Matt, let me, you're running Pathfinder, but we've also been talking a lot because spooky season's coming up.
Right.
Do you find Pathfinder suddenly less interesting? Do you kind of wish it away in some way, if you know what I mean?
No, but I'm not going to say that hasn't happened. Pathfinder has so much left for me to explore, and I'm committed to that. But that, we are our Genesis game.
Yeah,
I've
I was going to bring that
more
up.
or less let that die because like the Genesis is an amazing world, but because of Pathfinder and the things we're doing over here, it's easy to let those things die, and that's the problem I was running into. Is I wanted to run everything. And so I would start running Alien. Okay, let's throw this OBX game on top of it. And then let's throw this one shot on top of it. And then you get comfortable in those, right? Like you're 6 sessions deep into Alien. You're like, okay, let's start playing in the next thing. And before you know it, you're running like 5 things. And then you catch yourself. It's like, oh, who wants to sign up for Lancer? I really want to do this Lancer thing. And then like, that's when it was like, what am I doing? That's like, I have to run 5 games a month if I keep down this path, and that's bonkers.
Yeah.
And so now it's this intentional. I'm planning the spooky season stuff because it's spooky season.
Yeah.
I have to, right? No, but like the goal there for me is to always be doing something with Pathfinder. Right now we're in a beginner box, so there's not a lot of like world building or anything I have to do. We're doing a pre-generated campaign. And the Foundry stuff is done for me. So that leaves me with time to then, I feel like, start looking at the next endeavor, which is going to be something with a spooky setting. But the limit I'm setting on myself is to just walk to that.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do next. I'm not going to look at Sigil and Shadow or Brinkwood or Vampire the Masquerade with you guys. Side point, like I'm playing Vampire the Masquerade elsewhere, but like that's
wow, really?
I'm playing Vampire the Masquerade with my wife. That's different. Like we're doing one-on-ones with Vampire the Masquerade.
You're cheating on us with your wife?
That was a terrible example. My point is, before I would do like try to like run and come up with ideas for like 8 different things. I'm really trying to limit myself now. We have Pathfinder. That's the primary focus. And if I have the time, then I want to start thinking of the next thing, especially because our approach has been, we're going to do Pathfinder until it's done, the little like 5-6 sessions, whatever that is. Then we're going to take a break from it. So I don't need to be like constantly developing 3 years worth of Pathfinder stuff. But I want, just like you said, Art, it's fun. It's fun to process this stuff. So I want to dive into the next thing and start looking through it. I'm really excited for that stuff.
I will say, I think that's like the core reason that we started doing this was, hey, we want to get through stuff. We want to make it through 4 sessions and be like, okay, we're done. Let's move on to the next thing, because I've got, 20 RPGs I just counted over there that I want to get through. I've got so many on that. I know Art's got 4 shelves or whatever in the sex dungeon. Like, we all have these things that we just want to get through, which is why we're here, folks.
Yeah. And just for the record, the fact that I have that many shelves of RPGs in my sex dungeon means I misnamed my sex dungeon.
You have sex toys in your RPG dungeon.
It's my virgin cave. I don't know.
Oh yeah, that also works. Yeah.
I like the one Matt said better. That's funny.
Yeah. So, okay. So Matt, your superpower to resist is monkish celibacy. And Patrick, how do you sort of
no, the opposite of that. Yeah.
Okay.
No, there's no, it's just a big old circle jerk over here. It's just, it's ooh shiny. I mean, today within reason, I don't want my mom who watches the podcast to send me $20 because she's like, you have mouths to feed now. Like, you can't afford this habit.
Mrs. O'Leary, my sex dungeon was a joke. It's not real.
It's Mom, RPG dungeon.
It's not.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a big pile of socks in the corner. So
Gross.
they're crunchy socks too.
Stop. Disgusting.
I'll stop.
Why? Go on.
It's from the cum. That's why.
Oh.
So there you go. But today, back onto the RPG topic instead of cum socks. Wow. Well, there's a short right there, guys.
Justice T just emailed me, and I'm not allowed to drink it on camera anymore. So we're down to the lobster pot.
Oh, God.
The lobster pot is what we call the pile of socks.
Yeah, I have a bad habit of getting to the edge of the joke and just jumping over, so we're not gonna do that today.
Oh man, what's that smell coming from your lobster pot over there? Ed? That's fun.
It's better with clarified butter, I swear.
Good God.
Ah!
That's nasty, Patrick. That's gross.
Just make sure you wear a bib.
Shit writes itself, really.
Whew.
All right, let's all take a breath. So what was the question? The question was, how do you...
I was just trying to talk about how I picked up Brindlewood Bay today. I'm really excited about that. But that's because I'm a 90-year-old woman at heart, so it's fine.
Yeah.
And Blades in the Dark.
RPG, by the way.
Is it? I might
I've only
have
read it.
somewhere.
I didn't get a chance to play it because I was overcommitted to too many freaking RPGs when it ran. But yeah, I loved reading it, and the twist on it is where it ends up is quite amazing.
Yeah.
So
sorry.
So Patrick, so you don't really stop yourself. You just
within reason. Like I'll troll through drive through RPG for, I'm not buying the books. Like, I'll be honest. I'm not a physical book buyer. I'll buy PDFs all day long. Because I can read those, wherever. If I'm on the can with my I'll stop my crinkly sock. Anyway, I'm sorry. I will stop referencing the socks. I can read those anywhere when I'm, laying in bed or whatever. PDFs are great. Books, I have a really bad habit of just passing the fuck out when I pull a book out. I mean, it's just, I'll open the book and be like, oh, this is great. Every time, without fail.
right.
Is that a millennial thing?
No, that's got to be everyone thing. I pass out all the time as soon as I start reading. But I'm a millennial, so that checks out.
As an aside, my dad does that he's, a PhD student or whatever. So he's reading really dense textbooks, and he does the iPad thing. And every time we go to his house or their house, you can hear him at night because they go to bed pretty early. And he's got the iPad, and you can hear it hitting his face with the glasses clinking on it.
Yeah.
Every night, and it's like, oh, dad fell asleep, clink.
Yeah,
every night. So yeah, that's probably more accurate.
But Patrick, hold on, Art. Before
yeah.
That's a little different though, right? Because like I may have this celibacy, but my celibacy is I'm not gonna covet, my neighbor's wife. I'm gonna just stay committed to Pathfinder and what's next in store. That doesn't mean I'm not buying shit. Like I bought the RPG in a heartbeat, but like I'm not prepping for the potential Lancer campaign that's going to happen in 2 years like I was before. Like I had like notebooks and stuff like, oh, and Hellboy, we're going to do this and this and this, and like, oh, this idea. And I still jot down ideas, but I don't like plan anymore. And I don't start developing Foundry models either. That was the other thing. I was like making the Foundry shit, not developing the modules, but like I was building my Foundry worlds for like things that people hadn't even signed up for yet. I was like, what the fuck am I doing?
All right. Then I am on that side of the fence because I'm not, I have an idea for what I'd like to run next. Spoilers, It's probably Deadlands. But other than that, it's all Call of Cthulhu. It's all, it's what we're doing right now. So do I have other things I'd love to run? Yes. Am I actively planning things and writing notebooks down? And yes, I used to. Now, no.
That's interesting because I guess because I do. You know,
Mhm.
I did a lot of the work on this spy thing
Mhm.
like 6 months ago.
Mhm.
Because when the idea gets in my head, I have to act
Mhm.
on it for two reasons. One, so I don't forget. And
Beet juice.
two, what's that?
Beet juice.
Right. And two, because it's what motivates me. You know, it's like,
You're
oh,
right.
I'm doing something, you know, like, you know, if I'm not in a game, if I'm doing this, that in my head, it's the same as playing in a way. So I both want to sort of start getting in on it and really getting the excitement. Now, the downside is then I'm not quite done prepping the spy thing, but I stopped for 3
Mhm.
months.
Mm-hmm.
And this sort of, you know, brings up the next sort of idea. Like you get the excitement now, right?
Mhm.
But you also know whether it's through, you know, I'm just going to set this aside. I can't think about it because I don't want what I'm doing now. Well, we've already established that what we're doing now isn't a burden. It's still fun.
Right.
Right.
And I guess before we get into the next step, like is it just because you've wanted to do it for so long that keeps it fun? Is it just because it's the thing that's right in front of you that keeps it fun? What is it that keeps that part of it intriguing to you, even though there's these pressures?
So
Well,
go ahead, Art. Matt. Go ahead.
all the lead up time is always exciting and fun to me because it's new and unexplored. The challenging part is once you're actually doing that. What if the system that's new to you doesn't quite live up to your expectations? What if the campaign isn't going in the direction you want? I'm right there with you. I love planning out these things. I just know that if I allowed myself to plan for the thing that I'm going to run in a year, then for me that's going to be a detriment to what I'm running now, and that's just the reality for me. So I like applaud the ability to still run an amazing campaign like M Space while doing other things, or like that's impressive. But I don't know if I have an answer for that because like Call of Cthulhu, I love the idea of Call of Cthulhu.
Mhm.
There were parts of that there were certain campaigns. Tell me, have you seen the Yellow Sign? Is supposed to be this epic, you know, outstanding scenario from older Call of Cthulhu, and I like it. Um, but it never quite lived up to the bar I set for it, and so then I
Mhm.
lose interest. That's like my struggle is like if something doesn't live up to the expectation I set, then I
Mhm.
lose interest, and I don't want to be in it for a year. I want to be in it for 4, 5, 6 sessions, knowing that I can move on because that's my personality, right? Like when I had surgery, I was so balls deep into Demons or Dark Souls and Elden Ring and stuff, and I played through Dark Souls 3 twice, and then I played through Elden Ring and like watched all the arts videos and stuff. And then like once I was done with that, then it's like I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. I kind of want to play Dark Souls 3 again, but like I needed a month and a half break from it. I can't take a month and a half break or like a 3 month break from a Call of Cthulhu campaign. Well, I mean you can, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's
Right.
harder for me to keep it going once it's actually happening.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's a little bit because is it because, you know, I think it's running on autopilot a little bit because you've got it up and on its feet?
A little bit, but it's also probably some of that like sick, like you want the thing you can't have. Like, ooh,
Yep.
I want Lancer because I'm not running it.
Right.
Like
Mhm.
Call of Cthulhu, I have that anytime because that's what I'm running. Like that's part of the like internal part that like I need to process, but whatever. That's neither here nor there. I do a podcast, so I don't see a therapist. Not going to address that now, but I think so. I mean, it is on autopilot, right? Like, what's my prep work? Like, I just plop down. Like, if the scenario is done with Pathfinder, for example, if I didn't have a shit ton of stuff that was super fascinating to me, like, what's your prep work for Menace Under Otari? To just reread the scenario book for the fourth time or whatever, you know, like, which I do. Like, all right, I think we're gonna get this far. I'll
Mhm.
brush up on it. Um, that's not as exciting.
Right. And it's interesting. Well, Patrick, you know, do you have something that helps you keep the spark alive in the thing that you're currently running, even though there's these pressures?
So I'll be on if I'm running something, I'll be honest, I think people have probably gathered and you guys have probably gathered. I try not to run anything that's going to go longer than 4 or 5 sessions. Just flat
Okay.
out. Like that's my expectations when I set something up or hey, we're going to have a great adventure for for 2 months, 3 months, maybe. And then we're done and we'll move on to something else. That's always been my kind of like, those are the games that I go to. That's just how I try and do things. I was going to ask, it sounds like when you guys you have something that you're interested in, right, outside of what we're doing, you will go and prep or do a little prep or do the reading. Is that your vent? Is that how you blow off your steam for, being excited for something else? Or do you go and
I hit the
like,
lobster bot.
yeah, I mean, clarified butter everywhere. But, or do you go and like make a bunch of character sheets, which fuck art, god damn it. Because I am in the latter category. Like, if I'm really excited for something and we're in the middle of something, like right now, I got Call of Cthulhu, we got, Otari, and we got a couple other things going on. If I'm really horned up for something else, I'll go and I'll make like four different characters and be like,
I gotcha.
okay, I've spent 3 hours making characters for this, and I'll read a little bit of the background information or whatever, but that satiates me for, okay, cool. I've made 4 Deadlands characters. I'm good. I don't need to play Deadlands for, it will last another month or two before it's time to play Deadlands again. Do you guys ever do anything like that?
I can't say I do. I mean, I mess around with character creations when like I have a new thing. One of my favorite things is like seeing a robust character creation thing we kind of talked about with the next card RPG. Like, it's not the most robust and it's very light. Typically I like to see something meaty and like I'll dive right in, just see how it goes. It's the first thing I did with Old Gods. But I can't say like I do that. Like, if Lancer is catching my attention, then generally I'm like looking up the resources for everything I need to like run the best Lancer campaign. Like, that's my outlet for Lancer, not like generating a character. That's actually a bad example because I did create a bunch of Lancer characters just because it's so unique.
Right.
I apologize. But like, if I have
like Call of Cthulhu,
I can't say generally I don't do that. Lancer was just a bad example.
No, that's fair. But like, and Art, I kind of feel like your answer, not to put words in your mouth, but I kind of feel like the answer is going to be you're going to go start prepping a campaign for it.
So, yeah, and there's sort of 2 chunks to my role playing. One when I was very young, where I would have absolutely just busted out making characters. I would just make character after character after character. And then, to be honest, even though I've been sort of role playing for a little while, like, there was a really big gap. And then jumping online with the Alcoholic Adventure Cabal was able to provide a window back in. And that only was a couple of years ago. So it's sort of like this weird thing. While I've been doing it for a while, I've only been back, for a very short time. And in the new short time, yes, because of VTTs and things like that, I almost sometimes create work for myself to give me something to do so I can be playing with the rule set and playing with the setting, definitely kicking around ideas. And it's stupid. I don't know if it's stupid, but like, it's one of those things where like I'll put on a podcast. I'm like, yeah, tonight I'm going to do data entry for equipment, and, on the corner of my eye, I'm watching something, but it's just, instead of playing a video game that night, I'll do prep.
So Matt and I don't need to see a therapist, but that sounds like you may need to see a therapist. If data entry for equipment, like, oh my God, wow.
Yeah. And for the first thing that I ran when I was back, baby, was Deus Vult, and I did it in the Fantasy Grounds VTT, and it was a shit show.
Yeah,
and it's not entirely Fantasy Grounds' fault. It's not entirely my fault. It's a little bit of both. But the reality was that there wasn't a system in place for me to run it in Fantasy Grounds.
Right.
I don't know how to code, but I figured I would try and hack the XML files of Fantasy Grounds to make it kind of work. And it was a disaster on some levels. And then I was like, okay, I need to try this. That didn't work. And the whole time my players are like, oh my God, what are we doing? So I felt genuinely bad about that, but it was getting to play, right? It was it was giving myself something to do that was within the scope of an RPG game that I was looking forward to running. So it was all it didn't ever feel like work on some level. I have to
And,
confess.
and see, this is I think this is just a window into who we are as people, or who we are as GMs, at least, right? Because like put it, I'm not gonna lie, sitting down and putting in a bunch of data into a VTT, that sounds like my definition of hell. Like, I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna tell somebody to roll a d20, and if it's high enough in my mind, sure, like, let's roll with it. We'll figure it out, right?
I mean, just consult the book. But yeah,
Or that. I mean, even that might take too much time in the middle of a session. Like, let's just roll. Let's just have a good time. Like, and I'm not saying what you're doing is not a good time, because I've had great times. Like Deus Vult, top tier, man, top tier.
Oh, I'm glad you
But
enjoy it.
yeah,
So the current iteration of Deus Vult is
Mhm.
the second VTT I used. It's the first time, second time, both on Fantasy Grounds. Third time was into Foundry, and then I did it's the fourth try, right? So we're on the fourth version of Deus Vult, you know. But here's what I'll say about the data entry. It's not that the data entry is just a hysterical time, but
oh,
it's
shocker,
I know.
shocker.
But what it's what it represents. It's why,
Sure.
you know, I just amass war games on my shelf that I'm not going to live long enough to play them all. But that potential when I look at it. And so as I'm entering the data, I'm like, oh God, this is going to be so cool when like so-and-so does this and I can just drag this over and it'll all work flawlessly so we can get right back to it. It's that potential of, I picture running it as I'm doing this, and that, you know, helps sort of spark some of the interest.
and I think I do the same thing, just on a different scale. It's this story can unfold. This, like, I'm thinking bigger picture, like that helps me. The like potential stories that pop up in my mind that may or may not happen in the old god setting is like, oh, like that's when the like juices start flowing, and that's when like I pull out the like roadmaps. I like to do roadmaps when I'm like planning this stuff, and so like that's way different than data entry, right? Like I'm mapping out this and like interweaving these paths, whether we use them or not. But like when my alien campaign was 3 parts, right? And that actually helped keep that pretty fresh and pretty exciting for me is part 1. And then but I'd be excited for part 2. And those were all roadmap flowcharts that I would, and then just like change the scenes to work with my roadmaps. So like I'm doing the same thing, Art. I think it's just, you're doing it on a different scale and I'm doing it on
A cooler one.
well, no, not necessarily cooler, because it's still things that get us excited for the system and
Right.
getting to run it. And it's the potential of that work and seeing that come across when we actually sit down and play.
And I'll say, like I was saying, you know, back in the day, I would be making characters. One of the things that's really helped me now, because again, like we've referenced, I'm running a campaign called M Space. It's a science fiction thing, blah blah blah.
Dating sim, a little bit
It's
of everything.
it's a dating sim, cyberpunk.
I hear
meets The Expanse.
Do you have dolphins? Are there dolphins involved?
There was a dolphin at one point.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's for real.
Yeah.
And it was never meant to go as many sessions as it has. But I will say the thing that, you know, with all these pressures on the outside make me go, oh, look at that. The fact that they're recorded and I listen back before the next session to remember what happened. It's not a typical thing for a role-playing game. Obviously, it was never part of my childhood role-playing games, but it's part of it's part of the workflow now.
Yeah.
And hearing it, I'm like, oh God, yeah, like that was really funny. And I wasn't expecting that. And this ended up being a really good time. And then I'm like, you know what? I want to see what happens sort of next, you know, and then that's what gets me back into it. It's sort of, I don't know how applicable that would be to most people, but in our specific situation, it's something bizarrely that keeps me going.
Well, it sounds like we've got the kind of 3 different levels represented amongst the 3 of us, which is great. I think that's it shows the variety that comes up from role-playing games, right? You've got Art, who's data management, like he's a database fool with this. You got Matt, who's making storyboards, and then you got me, who's just fucking rolling with it, which means we all have a good time with mine, but it's I think we do anyway. But it's not, I don't know, it's just like I read the adventure and I say, okay, the adventure is there. It's going to be cool. And I'll read a little bit beforehand, panic read, oh, here's when this needs to happen. Like, oh
Right.
shit. And then the gaps that happen, like, just perfectly honest with you guys, the horde of rats thing in our Call of Cthulhu thing, that's not in the book.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm just like, there's going to be a bunch of fucking rats.
Oh, I
Like,
could tell, because how the hell are you going to unwind from that one? I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
yeah, no, we're just gonna just push on forward, keep moving forward, right? Like, it'll all work out in the end if we're having a good time. Like, and Cthulhu-y things happen, who the fuck cares?
That's
Like,
right.
And
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
But I can see, like, I have done the data entry stuff and I have done the storyboard stuff before. I just find, for me personally, the way that I like to run things is just like conspiracist. Fuck it. You know what?
Fuck it. Let's go.
That guy's gonna have, it's Dick Nixon.
Yeah.
That's, everybody's gonna be named Dick Nixon, and it's gonna be a great time. So
Yeah.
but
So, okay. So let me ask you. So you've got Call of Cthulhu going on Scratch.
Mhm.
Matt, you've got Menace under Otari.
Mhm.
What are, I mean, we sort of hinted at it a little bit, but are there specific ones that are, you mentioned Deadlands. Is that the one, if you had to pick one that's sort of catching your eye and pulling you away, would it be Deadlands or?
It always is. Like, that's just, as I mentioned
Okay.
earlier, that's just home, right? That's where I'm most comfortable with. Like, I love Tombstone as a movie. It's my favorite movie. Like, I can go back, it's just, that's the universe that I enjoy living in, right? Now, I will say, I keep looking and seeing Into the Odd, and that's always been something that just keeps rattling around in my head, like, ooh, that'd be kind of fun to run some Into the Odd.
Yeah.
But as far as this goes, and hey, what do I want to do? I would, every time somebody's like, what do we want to run next? It's always Deadlands comes out of my mouth before I even know what I'm saying. So
Yeah. Okay. And Matt, is there a specific one that, I know you were looking at the store, but is there specific ones that really
Yeah.
are calling to you
So
at the moment?
again, there's a million different things that I would be happy to run, right? But now I'm trying this thing where, like, I stay laser focused, and what I've more or less committed to, which will be tricky just with what our schedule's coming up, but I've always wanted this, like, Hellboy game, right? And I've never been able to pull it off. And what I love about Hellboy is, like, this investigation of the paranormal, plus the humor, plus the action, plus punching Nazis in the face. We don't have enough of that these days. And so I kind of wanted to do that. And then, and you'll see where this is going in just a second, I promise. The RPG for Old Gods of Appalachia came out. I don't have my book yet, which is sketchy, seen as on the shelf at the game store, but I do have the PDFs, and I've been playing around with that, and that was like, I really want to do something with this. I like this. There's a lot of potential here, but I didn't have like the story idea yet. And then it weirdly turned into this, like, what about Hellboy with that? And then it turned into, what about that with that, which is Delta Green. And then it's like, what if it became our own little version of Twin Peaks, looking into the types of things that the Hellboy investigation team looks into? And then it's like, okay, how do I mash that with Old Gods of Appalachia, which is, in my mind, you could do modern very easily. But the time period is one of my favorite things of Old Gods of Appalachia, 1920s, 1930s. You can do some really cool stuff with that.
Mm-hmm.
So what I am working on is kind of a what I think is an interesting approach of, you will be playing two systems at once, and we'll bounce around as we need to. You'll be playing a character in the Old Gods of Appalachia system set back in the 1920s, and a related storyline to what your investigators using Delta Green will investigate, and it's all tied in. And I want to kick it off with 0 episodes, one shots for each of you that are individual. And so my goal with Pathfinder was this collaborative character building session where you are giving input to each other. And at least with Old Gods of Appalachia, I haven't decided if I want to do it with Delta Green. This time I want to do the complete opposite of that. With Old Gods, you're going to make your characters on your own, and we're going to introduce those characters in a 0 episode. Okay, so we're gonna start playing right away, and that's your thing, and then you'll come together with those characters. And I might do the same thing with Delta Green. And so right now and of course, like any good GM, I'm borrowing from other things, but this is a complete, like, a homebrew scenario that's going to be told in 2 parts with 2 parts and 2 systems. I'm very excited for it because it's 2 things that I'm very excited for. Old Gods, which is amazing, and like a Twin Peaks, not Hellboy, like we're not gonna have superpowers,
Yeah.
but like Hellboy threats. The more paranormal side of Twin Peaks is kind of what I'm thinking.
Right.
I'm gonna
Nice.
I'm gonna be perfectly honest. Like I'm very spoiled of this threesome. Like I've got 2 guys who are very excited to go just absolutely balls to the wall with getting things prepared and coming up with crazy stories. Like I'm really sorry that you guys have to deal with me in my games. Like just straight up like, but I can't wait to go through, like, hearing you guys be excited about this stuff is what gets me excited to play games. Like
Yeah.
that's
Same. Yeah.
yeah. So very excited. I'm excited to punch Nazis in the face.
Yeah. Well, there may not be Nazis yet. The Nazis are primarily reserved for Hellboy and Section D is nuts. But yes, maybe there will be. I don't know. I'm still working on the storyline. That's the hardest part I'm coming up with right now. Like I know how to, like, I know where I want to set it. Like Lower Alabama area is primarily where it's going to be set. And all those things are coming together, like the setting and the place and some of the people, and then the things are going to happen. But I'm still working on the overarching story. So I'm glad that I have time. I can play Pathfinder. It's a beginner box set, and I can come up with this broad story to let you guys play around in.
I will say a couple of things. One, as I think Patrick was alluding to, there's a lot of reasons why we sort of designed this setup, and it wasn't necessarily so that we could have podcasts. It was trying to develop a style of play that would check a lot of boxes. And one of the things that I found really helpful is knowing that my turn's coming soon, so to speak, and that my turn doesn't have to last forever. And I can just, and knowing that it's gonna keep moving and getting the feeling that we will get to try a lot of different ideas and not just have like all my data entry sit there collecting dust. I will say, not that, I don't know if anybody cares. So I was recently on a trip and I brought with me like a really nice thick novel. Didn't crack it once because I also brought, the things that have been distracting me. I'm, prepping, my John Le Carre thing. One is Ars Magica 5th edition.
Nice.
Which I thought could be really interesting. There's a lot to it, so I didn't get through it all. And then the other thing, which actually was kind of refreshing in a way, was the Cortex Prime game handbook.
Neat.
And I bounced off of this.
Yeah.
Which is, and I don't think it's necessarily the system, but this book is not meant to explain the system. This book is meant for experienced people to give them the sort of the open source code, so to speak, to hack it. And like, these are how these systems are supposed to work. These are the modules you can put together for this effect. And so I've never played the system, so I'm not familiar. And so what I've heard a lot of people say is it's actually better to read a game that's published in the Cortex Prime system than to read this book. The trick is that just about everything that was originally published for the Cortex Prime was all licensed and it's out of print. So it was kind of nice because I was reading the Cortex Prime. I'm like, you know what? Like, it's not.
Yeah.
So I don't have to add it to the, oh my God, now I've got another thing that I've got to start doing data entry for, so, but the Ars Magica was the other one. And then after I put those down, I started reading something else once I got a feel for it. But those were the things recently that, because I had time and I was like, I'm going to read something instead of reading books that were probably good for me. I read RPG rule books like a nerd. So, anyway,
Can I put an asterisk on my my previous answer?
Yeah,
nope.
Unfortunately,
locked in.
No.
We're committed. I've already rolled up a character.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
But no, go ahead. Obviously.
So I will say, Deadlands is up there, but depending on after my brief hiatus with baby, when I come back and what I come back to, if Eat the Reich is out, that is going to shoot to number 1 on the Patrick is going to run this next list.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Is it because it's new? Is it because of the subject matter? That's like the system.
it is just a super unique, and maybe it's just because maybe I'm being naive. It feels super unique to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, para-dropping in vampire allied troops to assassinate Hitler. Like, I mean,
I can get
Right.
behind that. I
what
like
is what is happening? Like, it's just outrageous. And
Yeah.
every preview that they drop, I'm salivating over, and yeah, I'm very excited for that to come out.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that was a random, like, I got a targeted ad on Twitter. I'm sorry, X. And that's how I fell down that rabbit hole. But
Nice.
So, Art, just you kind of like very passively mentioned like what's demanding of your attention. I assume that's because the spy stuff is more or less ready to go, but and we've
Yeah.
kind of touched on it before, like in this broad schedule of things, and I know we're gonna wait for Patrick to be on back from baby daddy duty. That so next up for you and that for all three of us is the spy stuff, right? It's
Yeah.
that's the plan.
Yeah. So one of the things, you know, I have 2 or 3 things in some stage of prep that I
Okay.
could switch to. That's the danger of my way, is that I could be like, you know what, this is actually ready to go. Let's change gears. But I, you know, when I listen, what I keep coming back to, and then, you know, having to touch up some of the prep really helps, is I go back and I remember when I was reading the Le Carre novel that made me think this could be an adventure.
mm-hmm.
And that says, yeah, you know what? I know it's been a while. I know that it hasn't been at the front of my mind for a little bit, but I still get that feeling, and I really want to see if it works.
Nice.
And so, yeah, so that helps me, you know, when you put it out there, I could say, you know what, actually I'm going to run the homebrew fantasy setting, but
Fair.
I'm not, because I remember the thoughts, the fun I was having churning those ideas over when I first thought the Looking Glass War could make a fun, you know, change of pace kind of, you know, maybe it's out there. I don't know, but I've never encountered like a John Le Carre RPG. I know they make certain ones that are very PBTA. They're very things like that, but this is, well, I never played James Bond, but I don't know where it falls on the action versus
Intrigue.
Yeah, if you know
Right.
what I mean. So it's probably not that unique, but I've never played something like it, so I'm kind of curious. And again, it could crash and burn, and that's fine. You know,
Well, that's the beauty of our setup, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, you just get out of it, and then
you just know it's going to be right. If you're not particularly enjoying something, if you're like, I hate FBI investigation stuff, then it's like, at least you know on the horizon, like, I know I'm marrying mine into 2 systems, which may stretch that a little bit, but
Mhm.
like your exit point is not that far off. Like, yeah, I hope you don't hate Pathfinder, because I'm going to try to bounce back to that as much as I can for the foreseeable future. But like, if
Yeah.
it's a stinker, then we know that its horizon is soon, which is nice. I like that. And it's going to be great, Art. I know Patrick and I are both
Yeah,
so excited
I'm
for it.
super
I think it's-
excited.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I don't know if it's going to be something we want to do forever, which probably none of these, I guess, are. But I think it's going to be fun kicking the tires and seeing what happens for a little bit, and being like, yeah, you know, that was kind of cool for a little bit.
Yeah.
I will say I need both of you to stop recommending novels to me,
Oh,
because the way that it seems to go is somebody reads something and says, I'm going to make an RPG of this, you know, and then I go and I'm like, oh fuck yeah, I'm going to read that book. And yeah, and here we are. That's why, yeah, spooky season coming up, and
Yeah.
you know, the Le Carre books. Yeah, it's
yeah. Michael McDowell is the setting for both the 1920s and the 90s. Where the Delta Green stuff would ideally be set in the 90s, but I'm using Michael McDowell's kind of settings, which is Southern Gothic horror. You can read the books; it won't spoil anything, but don't be surprised when we go to an island with 3 houses off the in the Gulf Shores, right? Like, it's a perfect setting. I can't wait to use it.
Okay, so Matt, can I ask you a question? This is a little bit of a tangent. You're talking about Delta Green.
Yep.
we've talked, with talking about my John le Carré. I don't know if I mentioned it on when we've been talking in a recording, but one of the parts I pulled from is Night's Black Agent.
Yep.
Removing the super. Did you ever and you were like, hey, that could be interesting. Did you ever consider a gumshoe kind of thing, or was it always Delta Green proper?
It's Delta Green because it's the writing style of the stuff in Delta Green. The Impossible Landscapes scenario book is so fascinating. That's one of the things that drew me to Pathfinder. All the second edition Pathfinder stuff is some of the best writing in RPG stuff right now. Like, it is, I can't state enough how good a job Paizo is doing with their just writing. And Impossible Landscapes is what turned me on to Delta Green, and the writing and product quality of that stuff is really, so it's not so much the system. I have some personal hangups with Gumshoe, with how they work, how Gumshoe works mechanically. That being said, the one-on-one Night's Black Agent ditches some of those hangups I have, so I'm still very interested in that. The other thing with Night's Black Agent is the same thing with the King in Yellow, which is another Gumshoe setting, is in my mind that needs to happen in person because of some of the stuff. There's this thing called the Dracula dossier, which comes with like a redacted version of Dracula that you're supposed to like hand out all this stuff to your players when you play Night's Black Agent. And there's a Monty Cook game that was that way, right? Like, it was this big expensive thing and it was meant to be played in person. You can get the digital copy of it. I can't remember what it's called, the Black something or whatever. Okay. Neither here nor there, but it was all the other stuff you got and could use to supplement that's lost on a VTT. And so I didn't consider Night's Black Agent because Night's Black Agent has, other than the one-on-one thing, been this, I'm going to do this in person. And then, like I said, there's just some mechanical stuff that I would want to fix about Gumshoe before I went back to it.
I was just curious because, I specifically asked you about not PBT, about Gumshoe because that would have been the shortest distance from A to B in bringing to life Le Carré, because the Night's Black Agent has the expansion that brings it back to 1960. So, and so to that effect, Patrick, I know you mentioned Cthulhu, like Nyarlathotep. Nyarlathotep. Would you ever consider, because I'm looking at it on my shelf and I know that it has tons of handouts and cool things, and VTTs have that kind of stuff, but would you ever, is it just too big, or is it knowing what the handouts are, like it loses that tactile feel if we were doing it over?
So there's a happy medium, I think. I don't know if it's happy medium, but I think, and remind me if either one of you, I know Art, Matt, you were not in the recent Call of Cthulhu game that got run on Alcoholic Adventure Cabal. Okay. Yep. So the game master for that was phenomenal.
It was really,
he sent us in the mail, because we were playing it online. Like, he was sending us handouts. Like, here's the auction book from, your, and I was going to ask you.
That's a good idea.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
it was so well done. Yeah.
Oh, it was incredible. Like, shout out Ty. That was awesome. But receiving something in the mail, first of all, who does that anymore besides junk mail? And second of all, like that made all of us super excited. We're like, oh my God. And he's like, don't open that stuff. It was all taped shut and sealed. Like, don't open it until we're playing this. So just a shout out to that being an idea for whatever's coming down the pike, guys.
Sorry, I just banged my mic, but. And then the topper of the whole thing was when he sent us links to augmented reality.
That was insane.
So we're all like looking at stuff on our phones and being able to rotate around like statue. It was, oh my God.
Wow.
That's
nuts.
It was nuts. Yeah,
the closest thing I've done to that is I heard an idea for making a Twitter account, and then when I was balls deep into coming up with the kind of Sky City thing, I made like a foundation account for like the foundation that's responsible for the Sky Cities. But like I've heard stories of, and it was actually Night's Black Agent using some of the resources in that with the Dracula dossier. They made a Twitter account to like leave their players to find clues in and like interact with, and it's like that's amazing.
So that's pretty good.
But the handouts, I like that a lot.
Steal that, because that is just, if you're playing something online, like I've never met either of you in person. Like just
Mhm.
I would love to, Kansas City, but
Mhm.
um just that added connection too just makes it so much better to get
Sure.
something in the mail and be like, I don't know. It just is what it is. We live in such a screen world, right? That it's
Right.
nice to get something physical and be like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And even like Nyarlathotep,
Hmm.
like if you were saying like, even if I didn't own it
Hmm.
and you said, I'm going to run it, we need I would go buy it. And then I would sort of try and arrange it so that when you said,
Sure.
okay, dig in and pull out I could have the physical,
Yeah.
even though I know on VTTs, well,
Yeah.
No,
they're available at least on Fantasy Grounds. Yeah.
more fun to have something physical in your hands so you can, hold it up to the light, bite
Yeah.
on it, whatever you want to do. Like it's something about being tactile, right?
Yeah. Do you guys both get in-person RPG gaming?
0.
Okay.
Just one-on-one with my wife.
Okay. Because sometimes I'm like, there's so many quality of life things that come with VTTs, but then sometimes I'm like, yeah, but there's something about, I do miss the old days, but
I wish I did, but something's gotta make room for it somewhere. And so
Yeah.
like there's options. I've done some like RPG days at the local game stores, like one shots,
okay.
and had a blast with those. But and they have regularly occurring RPG nights, of course, like any good game store does.
Mm-hmm.
And so like the potential is there, but
Right.
then that's taken away one other thing. Then I can't go play Magic on Wednesday night or whatever.
Which
Yeah,
is top priority.
Depends on my mood.
well, I was about to say, as an aside, we're gonna take the RPG hat off for just a second. I got the Jumpstart box for all of the Lord of the Rings set, and I'm so excited for paternity leave to get here when my dad and parents are here.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god. Just to play the Lord of the Rings set. I'm so excited.
I've got 1 hour, 16 minutes, and 40 seconds for removal.
Yeah. I mean, I could be talking about war games, but I'm not allowed on that other podcast. So,
You're a guest.
I was a guest on Deserted Island Dads.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was very fun. You should
I
go
enjoyed
listen
that.
to it. It was good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so I don't know. Did we
Bring it back on topic here?
Yeah, do you feel like, we wanted to address the idea of like, we all have short attention spans, and we all we just our hopes are bigger than reality in some point. Do you feel like we covered the fact that we experienced that in different forms it could take, what it might do to current games and how to sort of keep it from overwhelming those current games? Have we sort of covered the basic ground, do you think?
Have we recovered every solution? No, but I
No.
think it is good to just like sometimes decompress and just be like, man, it is hard to focus on Pathfinder right now because look what just came out and stuff like that. And that is what's nice about like having a 3-player group, like a small group, is like you're gonna have like the read on each other and be able to say that and know, and that's nice. Did we answer all of life's questions, Arts? No, I don't think so. And there's probably someone listening that's like, you only have 75 they're not all unplayed, 75 system books. Like, come on, scrub.
Call me back when you hit. Yeah.
Right.
All right. Well, so now that we've, talked about the importance of staying focused on what we're doing now, what's coming up next?
Ooh. Matt, you go.
Yeah, well, I already hit our mind. So we're going to have the 0 shot for Old Gods with Art while Patrick is on paternity leave. We have continued plays that we're going to try to finish Menace Under Otari before Patrick leaves us. If not,
it should be fine.
We'll put a stop date on it and like hang on some kind of cliffhanger. I'll try to read that. And then I have some ideas for what Art and I will be doing while Patrick is away. I know one thing, I guess, I don't know if we want to say it if we're not committed to it yet. We've talked about Ironsworn.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could throw it out there as a possibility. I'm Ironsworn curious.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I've got some other just smaller stuff in the one-on-one kind of vein and co-op stuff. Particularly, I'm very curious for the I guess I shouldn't say this is the up next thing, but the Star Trek Solo RPG, which is standalone and doesn't use the full rule set of the D20 system, it's related.
Oh,
Is if Art and I can turn that into some kind of co-op captain's log, I think that could be a cool little, while Patrick is away, to somehow co-op a solo RPG.
yeah. And that's sort of like a hot thing going on. Like I've got solo systems for 4 different things, and it's always a Kickstarter reward tier. So I'd be curious if there's ways to turn those into co-op. That could be really interesting. And no matter what
I think you just do it like, I think what someone's captain, someone's first mate, and instead of just doing it solo, like you assign, like, all right, this, like, you decide this role is going to be yours, and like you take over the log, right, or something like that. I don't know. There's got to be some cool ways to do it. So that is potential. The only definite thing is Menace under Otari and then some Old Gods action. But
yeah, and then Patrick, I know you're about to step away for a little bit, but what do you have coming up?
So I think the Kickstarter for Eat the Reich is going to come out while I'm on baby daddy duty.
Right.
So finishing Call of Cthulhu obviously is priority number 1. And then I think it'll be a nice thing to ease back into Eat the Reich, which is sold as a, hey, this is only going to take 3 or 4 sessions to play through, and have a good time with that. So
yeah, and off channel, you are getting the Kickstarter level that comes with alchemy support. Right?
Yes, the dossier level.
Nice. So that could be our first go with the alchemy DTT.
Absolutely.
See what it's like. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. And then for me, yeah, I mean, like I'm very, I'm the one not in the rotation at the moment, so I'm just looking forward to seeing what happens at Atari, Call of Cthulhu. Yeah, I mean, Ironsworn and the solo captain's log, and then some spooky season. Yeah,
there's something there. I know we're not committed to it. Do you want to mention it, or are you holding that until we commit to it?
No, I mean, again, like these are all potentials. One that I thought might be interesting was this small little game called Eerie England.
Looks so good.
It does. I'm very jealous.
Yeah, and
very jealous.
Maybe we'll get it to the table, but maybe we'll just be
lock it in, Art.
Do it.
In, Vulcan mind melds solo.
Yeah, but specifically, I don't want to play it solo.
No. I don't think I would ever want to play an RPG solo. I gotta say, I'd co-op sounds great.
The exception to that is
Starforged.
No, I mean, I've played Starforged. That's why I really hope there's some time at some point for like a real Ironsworn go, because
Ironsworn's happening.
Yeah, I've played Starforged and I thought it was great. Yeah. I would never play it solo. For me, just because I'm not that quick on my feet, so I don't want to think of like, okay, what is this Oracle telling me? Okay, now I got to come up with this. I like the idea of saying, like, somebody saying like, it's got 4 legs, because I'm like, oh shit, I didn't think it would have 4 legs. And then now we're off on a tangent, and then I'll come up with the next tangent. Wait. Yeah.
Get me all fired up.
Yeah. So that's why, even though it has that solo idea, I would almost always rather play co-op, because then there's times where I don't know what happens.
This is going to be good when we get into that. The one thing solo wise, like, I am more interested in doing like Star Trek collaborative. But the D20 system never happened, and I got rid of it. I don't think it will necessarily never happen. So this is like a chance to go another stab at it. The one thing that has always been really interesting to me, but the thought of journaling it hasn't been appealing. I've thought about recording it solo, is The Porter at Hill House by Travis Hill, which is, you show up at this house and it's got this very eldritch horror vibe going on. And interestingly enough, there is potential for a very cool project, if we wanted to, called The Mirror in Hill House, which is a co-op RPG that, instead of sitting down together, whether you journal it or we recorded a session, I record a session, or you're not in there with me or Patrick or whoever, and then you pass it on. And the idea is you're in different realms, is my understanding of this Hill House. And like, so it's like a solo RPG journaling experiment, but you're doing it cooperatively, but you're doing it asynchronously.
Right. And
it sounds amazing. Like, going through Portal at Hill House, I wish I had the resolve to like sit down and journal and do it, because it's an amazing little zine for $5 you can go find on Presspot Games. Highly recommend it. And there's a PDF too, but the little booklet's cute.
I will say, because we've there's a video component to this, and I've done like a playthrough of Demon Souls and stuff like that. If I sort of approached a solo RPG with that mindset,
Yeah,
I
that's
actually
what I'm
might.
thinking.
Yeah. So I could see
That's
what
how I
you're saying there.
envision the captain's log thing. Like it's not
Yeah.
so much a journaling thing. It's like there's also this whole like you could do some cool stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
could dress up as my favorite Starfleet person.
Yeah, I feel
don't know.
like my Kirk cosplay is just the right amount of 2 sizes too small. I could squeeze into that and see how it goes. Nice. Okay. I mean, I think we did it. We solved short attention spans in gaming. Well done, gentlemen.
Hold on, can I just realize, I just want to add real quick,
Sure.
we talked about it. It's like, all right, here's what we're working on, here's what we're prepping. Oh, what's next? Oh, hey guys, check out this thing called the Mirror in Hill House, and and there's the Star Trek thing. Like, damn it, we didn't even make it an episode.
We didn't
before,
solve anything.
I'm not gonna lie. You talked about it. I've got it pulled up. The mirror, the portal at Hill House. I'm gonna buy it here in a second.
It's so good.
I was doing that
really
with Captain's Log. So
yeah,
we haven't solved anything. We're right back at the beginning.
Wow.
And we're up to 76.
77.
11 years to play everything.
Cheers, gentlemen. We did it.
Oh, that's glorious. I can ask for a better ending. Well, Patrick, you got to take us home. Good luck topping that.
Oh, wow. Ladies and gentlemen, you can find us everywhere that you find all of your podcasts. You can find us on Twitter. You can find Matt on Open Sky. You can find us on Discord. You can find us on wherever you find all your podcasts. It's been a pleasure for all of us. We look forward to playing. I think I'm up next for Call of Cthulhu.
Yes.
So looking forward to that next week, Labor Day weekend. Everybody have a safe and healthy Labor Day. And I don't know. Don't eat your neighbor, and clean up the cum socks in the corner. Don't be a fucking animal.
You were so close, Patrick.
I'm
a good ending, and then you had to.
I'm
lobster
always
us.
right there. Get that clarified butter out of the carpet, and it's what it's been fun, guys. I can't wait.
Yeah, same. All
like
right.
and subscribe, and if you enjoy the show, make sure you tell someone about it.
Absolutely. All right. Well, guys, have a great night. I'll talk to you soon.
See you guys.
Good night, everyone.
Good
Crunchy
night.
socks.